I'm going to jump back to our code, and I'm going to take a look at our front.php file. At this point, our front.php file is looking a lot like a framework. This code in general is pretty reusable for other projects as well. Because of that, it might make sense to wrap this code inside of its own class called framework. And by doing that, by simplifying our front.php file, we really make front.php a front controller. And that might actually allow us to use multiple front controllers if we wanted. Now let me try to demonstrate what I mean. If we go back to the browser and we look at this path, isleapyear/400, this is actually resolving to front.php. So if instead we put front.php and then /isleapyear400 and hit enter, you'd see that the same page shows up. Now the reason this is working is because inside of our htaccess file, we said that a request to any file that doesn't exist is going to route through front.php. If the file does exist, we want to show that file instead. And so that's what's happening here. We're showing this file instead, but the parameters getting passed to it resolve through our router the exact same way as it would if this front.php was gone from the URL. But let's say we want to add a front controller that includes some debugging information. Like we set our PHP errors to show all errors instead of hiding the errors. Well, we could create a dev.php, for example, and pass it the same URLs. Our dev.php isn't going to include a lot of code. It's just basically going to bootstrap our framework. By doing this, we are able to isolate out those settings that might be different for different environments, like a production environment versus a development environment, and separate them out into separate front controllers, so we don't, for example, just leave in some debugging code inside of what might be our only front controller. So this is the use case. This is why we would want to simplify our front controller as much as possible.